So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what you need to be doing right away when you land a remote sales offer. This is what you should be focusing on in your first 30 days if you want to get results and start selling. First and foremost, what you need to be doing is going through and listening to a bunch of different content. You need to first listen to the testimonials, the case studies, whether they're written, whether they're video format, whatever format that they're in, you need to be going through them over and over and over again. And specifically, don't just get familiar with the results that people are getting, but get familiar with the entirety of the stories. Get familiar with where they were when they first joined the program or bought the service, whatever it is, and get familiar with the journey they went through and then the outcomes that were had. If you don't find those at the company, one, you want to have a company that collects those things because it really helps with marketing. But if you can't find as many as you'd like, speak to the delivery team who actually is on the ground floor helping people get results. Speak to other closers, setters, whatever in the company. Speak to the business owner. Find this content, find this information, and start to get familiar with the stories, because not only will you be able to utilize these stories on your sales calls to help people overcome different fears, to help people relate to their situation, to the people that you guys have already helped, but it's also going to help you as a sales professional have massive amounts of conviction on these calls, in these conversations, knowing that you're selling something that works and you're setting people up for success. And knowing the entirety of the story also helps you identify who should be closed and who shouldn't be closed by seeing the similarities in the prospects that you're speaking to prospects that got amazing results. Another thing that's going to help with that, which is the second thing you need to be doing, is also listening to sales calls. Not any sales calls, but specifically the won calls at that company, the deals that closed. Any company worth their salt, any good company will have call recordings of all of their calls, hopefully, but you need to go in and get a ton, as many as possible, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, as many call recordings as possible of closed deals at that company, and listen to them over and over and over again, because your brain is a sponge and it's going to absorb and it's going to seep into your subconscious, and you're going to do more of what you're more familiar with. A big part of training is that mental game where when you freeze up on a call, where you don't know what to say and your body just starts reacting on autopilot, you want that default, you want that autopilot to go to what works. And the best way to do that is to fill your mind with what has worked on that specific offer in the past. And the best way to do that is to always be listening to calls that ended up closing. When you're at the gym, when you're going for a walk, when you're going for your run, when you're making your breakfast, for the first 30 days, just listen over and over and over again to calls that closed. You're going to get familiar with stories of the people that they're speaking to. You're going to hear their pain. You're going to hear what they're going through. You're going to hear their goals. So you're going to hear the beginning parts, and hopefully when you're listening to testimonials and looking at testimonials, you're going to start to be able to match people up. You're going to start to see the people that were on those call recordings that closed, and then you're going to start to see those people show up later in testimonials and case studies that you're looking at, which is going to be great. So you'll have a really good understanding of the full cycle and the full story. But not only that, you're going to hear objections, you're going to hear concerns, you're going to hear fears, you're going to hear all of these things. And because you're only listening to calls that actually closed, you're going to get to hear how the business owner or the salesperson or sales mentor, whoever was on that call, you're going to hear how they overcame those things and what word tracks they actually used live on a call, not theoretical, not from what you heard from a sales trainer, not from what worked for someone years ago. You're going to hear recently what's working now, what word tracks, what actually helped the person they're speaking to, and what kind of person they were, what kind of background they came from, and what helped them overcome fears, what helped them overcome whatever was in the way of them moving forward, what helped them actually get it done, get the deal closed, and get the commission going for them. And you're going to be able to pick up and start to say the same things on your next calls. That's where I've gotten some of the best word tracks, from the best things that I've been able to utilize to handle objections, was from listening to calls, how they got closed, and then just over time, because I'm just soaking it up, listening over and over and over again, literally while I'm doing work, while I'm filling out the CRM, while I'm writing messages in Slack, while I'm writing emails, while I'm, just doing whatever busy work in the background on my iPad or whatever, off to the side, I'm just having closed deals just play in the background. And as a byproduct of that, things are just sticking in my memory. And then when I hear an objection, when I hear a concern, the first thing my mind goes to is how that person handled it on a call and it worked out. And then I ended up repeating that same thing and also closing the deal. And that's going to make you a much better sales rep, because then a lot of the objection handling, a lot of the things you want to be able to do on the call is going to become autopilot for you. And the last thing you want to make sure you're doing on every single, just almost every day when you first get on that first offer, is go through the content, go through the delivery, really understand how results are created at that company. If it's a coaching company with course content and call recordings and they've got CSMs and all that, make sure you're speaking to the delivery team. Make sure that you're going through the actual course yourself. Know what content's in there. Know what the training's all about. Know what it takes to see success in what you're selling. And that way, when you get on these calls, you can actually be a true advisor, give little bits of advice and pieces of information, and really help people on these calls make sound, good decisions, because you know what's available in the program. You know how it's going to help, how it's going to tie in, and it's going to make your pitch way better when you're pitching and you're saying, hey, this part, when you go through here, when you go through the course, it talks a lot about this, which you said you're struggling with. This is where you're going to be able to get that help. This is how it's going to help you. This is where the benefits are going to be. And you will be a much better closer having an actual understanding of the industry. And because you learned about the industry, you also start to speak their lingo, which helps with more sophisticated buyers. There's going to be usually a range of people that are brand new to whatever it is you're selling and just getting started with whatever it is you're talking about. But there's also offers where you're only going to be speaking to mainly experts. For example, if I'm selling some kind of advertising, thing, and I'm selling specifically a high ticket thing to current advertisers or business owners that are at a certain scale already, they already have a certain understanding of advertising. They're already going to be speaking a certain lingo. They're already going to be speaking a certain industry language that I have to be able to keep up with, or else they're not going to see me as a capable advisor of telling them what the best next steps are for their business, for their marketing, thus not trusting whatever solution I have to offer, even if my understanding doesn't translate to how the actual delivery of the service will be, because the delivery team has a great understanding, the business owner has great understanding, and I just lack that same understanding they have. They're still going to view my level of understanding and tie that to how much the business will actually be able to help them. So it's very important that you also brush up on whatever it is you are selling. And if you do those three things, if you spend a ton of time listening to testimonials, absorbing the wins, and having more conviction on these calls, as we know conviction sells. And if you're listening to one calls, seeing what specifically was said to help people overcome different fears, to help people move forward, hearing stories, hearing how the program was presented to different people, understanding how it's tailored to certain people, seeing what actually caused deals to close in the present time. And if you're going through the content slowly but surely over time, becoming more and more of an industry expert, becoming more and more of a true advisor on these sales calls, building more trust, building more authority for these calls, you will crush your next sales role. Hopefully that helps. See you guys in the next video.